Good evening. My name is Suzanne Kavik, and I am president of the League of Women Voters of Newcastle. I'd like to welcome you and our candidates to our candidates forum for the Democratic primary for the Newcastle Town Supervisor and Town Board positions. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan grassroots political organization of both women and men. This means that the League does not support or oppose one candidate or political party over another. We are dedicated to the active and informed participation of citizens in government at all levels. The League works to educate voters, increase understanding and debate on major policy issues, and influence policy through education and advocacy. The League takes positions on policies, not candidates or parties. You can find information about the League at our website, lwvnewcastle.org, where you'll also be able to access information on all of tonight's candidates through our online voters guide. This evening's proceedings are being taped by the Newcastle Community Media Center and are being live streamed on YouTube, where closed captioning is available. The video will be available on demand at both nccmc.com and YouTube. All other recording is strictly prohibited. Any rebroadcast of this candidates forum must be in its entirety and unedited. I want to take a moment to thank the Newcastle community for the tremendous response to our call for questions for this forum. We received over 200 questions. That's impressive for any race. So I'd like to emphasize that if you don't hear your question verbatim, it does not mean that it's not being asked. Questions were grouped and combined for redundancy. Our goal is for you, the community, to learn as much as possible in our brief time together in this forum about where the candidates stand on the issues that are important to you. We have attempted to cover as many of the topics identified by the community as possible, and we'll get through as many as time allows. And please keep the questions coming when we ask for them for the general election. Democracy is not a spectator sport. I would also like to address the League's policy regarding participation in our candidates forums. As a nonpartisan organization, the League invites all candidates on the ballot for a given election to take part in the forum. We do not invite anyone who is not on the ballot, for example, write-in candidates. We also do not disinvite eligible candidates unless they inform us that they have withdrawn from the race. The League does not allow surrogates to participate in a candidate forum. All candidates must speak for themselves only. A final note on tonight's program, the Newcastle League was informed this evening that one candidate for the 2-year term on the town board, Jennifer Bounds, will not attend the forum. As there are only 2 candidates running for this position, the other candidate, Jennifer Louise Jeune, cannot participate due to the League's open chair policy. The candidates for the 4-year town board term, however, will take part in the discussion. So our timekeeper this evening is League member Mary Kirsch, and our moderator is John Hessel, a member of the League of Women Voters of New Rochelle. John will now go over the ground rules for tonight's forum.
Hi, thanks. It's a pleasure to serve your community. I'm obviously not a voter in this district. So here's the ground rules. We drew lots for the order of people speaking. The order of closing statements will be in reverse of the order of the opening statements. Then we'll rotate the candidates' answers to ensure fairness. Throughout the forum, no comments of a personal or abusive nature will be permitted. Candidates may be ruled out of order, and if needed, I may grant an additional rebuttal. Each candidate for town supervisor has 2 minutes for their opening statement, then league questions, then a league question followed by the audience questions. Candidates will have in the town supervisor 1.5 minutes to answer each question. The timekeeper will indicate when 1 minute remains and when 30 seconds remain, and then also a stop. Candidates will be allowed to finish their sentences and then they'll mute their microphones. Each candidate will also have a total of 2 30-second rebuttals in this segment. After the town supervisor forum, we're going to have a forum for the town board. And each candidate in the town board has 1 minute for their opening statement. Then they'll answer the questions posed by the league, followed by the audience questions. Candidates have 1 minute to answer questions in the town board forum. The timekeeper again will indicate 30 seconds. And then when time is up, They'll have a stop sign, thank you, Mary, and each candidate will have in that segment one 30-second rebuttal. Okay, for both forums, questions from the audience were submitted prior to the candidates' night by email and electronic form. The audience will not be able to submit questions during the live event. At the conclusion of the question period, each candidate will give a closing statement of a maximum of 1 minute. Okay, as the moderator, I will reserve the right to allow a rebuttal if the close is warranted by the content of the closing statement. And the rebuttal will be given 30 seconds. So we are ready. We will begin with the town supervisor position. Today we have 2 candidates for 1 position. In the order of questions, your candidates are Ms. Lisa Katz and Ms. Holly McCall. Okay, so we're going to start with Ms. Katz for the opening statement, and whenever you're ready.
Good evening, and thank you to the League for organizing this event, to my fellow candidates, and to every resident who has tuned in tonight. Many of you know me as your neighbor. My husband, Steve, and I moved here 15 years ago. We raised our children here. We walk our dog in our incredible parks, and we love our town. You also know me as a member of the town board for the last 8 years. Since I was first sworn into office by Secretary Clinton in 2014, I helped to make positive changes in Newcastle by enhancing communication through a new e-newsletter, saving the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center, tripling our paving budget, being on the forefront of green initiatives, advocating for diversity and inclusion, and tapping our talented community for knowledge and support, all while striving to keep our property taxes flat. And now I want to serve as your town supervisor, because there are many issues in Newcastle that must be addressed in a reasoned, practical, and fiscally responsible manner to serve the best interests of our town, rather than political agendas. One example is the proposed form-based code, which serves the interests of for-profit developers while placing significant burdens on residents across all of Newcastle without accomplishing the ultimate goal of bringing diversity and vitality to the Chappaqua hamlet. It is simply an out-of-scale development plan that permanently undermines resident input on the future of our hamlet. And that is a notion none of us should accept. But most importantly, I want to bring our community together. We must honor our diversity and care for one another, even when we disagree. This home of ours is a community where neighbors should smile and treat each other with generosity, compassion, and respect. After everything that we went through in 2020, we need each other more than ever. And I promise you, I will set a tone of kindness from the top. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McCall?
Good evening, and thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this event this evening. And I also want to thank outgoing Supervisor Ivy Poole for her leadership and service to Newcastle. I have an established record of community engagement here in Newcastle. For me, being part of a community means that you'll do whatever you can to make it the best it can be. From planning elementary school parties on the PTA to serving on the Board of Education, I try to do my part. I'm a thoughtful and data-driven decision maker. When our family relocated, I created a spreadsheet to analyze our options. And if I don't have a spreadsheet for something, I probably have a chart somewhere. I value collaboration and hard work. I'm a founding member of the civic engagement group called Up to Us, and we put in the work to elect Chris Burdick and Pete Harcum, which flipped the Senate blue. Beyond my experience and qualifications, though, I really love this place that we chose to make our home. I have the experience, vision, and temperament to be the next supervisor of Newcastle. Tonight's forum will give you an idea of how I would make Newcastle even more welcoming, equitable, and thriving. But I encourage you to connect with me directly. My email is mccall@dems4newcastle.com. I thank you all for tuning in tonight, and I thank you for being a voter.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now we're going to have the first question, and the first question goes to you, Ms. McCall, and then Ms. Katz. And you have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer. Okay, here we go. Over the years, the town of Newcastle has had supervisors who've brought varying styles of engagement and governance to their position. How do you see the role of town supervisor, and how does it differ from that of a town board member? Ms. McCall.
Thank you for that question. I see the supervisor role as being the chairman of the town board, the town executive, and the chief fiscal officer. Town supervisor is going to set the policy and strategic direction for the town and work closely with the administrator. She sets the agenda and determines what issues are going to come before the board. I want you to know that I am committed to this town and I'm committed to serve the town and community. I think that it's important to involve the community for input and always be listening. I can't speak specifically to being a town board member, but I do know what it's like to be a member of a board, and the supervisor is the leader of that board.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. McCall. Ms. Katz?
So Holly is correct that the supervisor is the leader of the board and really sets the tone at the top for not only how we interact with our residents, but also the agendas of the board and ensuring that we operate with fiscal responsibility. So most important in that statement is that we set the tone at the top. And I intend to make sure that we listen to all residents and we seek out the perspectives of diverse voices within our community to promote diversity, equity, inclusion, and that we honor our differences as valued assets. Because while we all may have differences of opinion, when we get those differences together, that's when we can come up with the best solutions for our town. Now that differs a little bit from being a town board member because I've been one for 8 years. And while I have, as a town board member, you have significant input and obviously you are well prepared for meetings, you don't set that tone and you don't set the agenda. So the difference is that the supervisor really has the ability to make this the town we want to live in and to ensure that everyone is listened to, that we do everything fiscally in a fiscally responsible manner, that we make sure that our towns and our parks and all that we want is what will happen in our town. So that really is the difference in that we get to set the tone at the top. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so now we have the second question, and this one's going to go right to you, Ms. Katz. Here we go. There are many differing opinions about the extent to which party politics should play a role in hyper-local elections. But since this is a Democratic primary, can you tell us why you've chosen to seek the Democratic line in your effort to be elected to the town supervisor position? That's to you, Ms. Katz.
Sure, thank you. I love that question. And I agree that party politics should not have a place in our town. We need to do what is the best for our town, whether it is a Democratic value, an independent value. We are representing every single constituent in this town. So party politics don't have a say there. However, we also need to make sure that we work with all of our elected officials, no matter what political party they may come from. So whether we need to work with Democrats, Republicans, we need to make sure that we can work across the aisle with all constituencies. Now, I'm seeking the Democratic primary because I'm a Democrat, and I think that our voters need to have a larger say in who they get to choose for that Democratic line. In the past, the Newcastle Democratic Committee has chosen their nominees, and that was it. Those were the people who showed up on that line. This year, we had a number of Democrats who really felt it was very important to be on the Democratic line and really feel passionate about our town. And we want to give our voters in Newcastle a choice in this election. And that's why I'm seeking the Democratic line. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McCall.
So I do agree with Lisa that party politics just shouldn't play a role. However, the party values, in particular the Democratic Party values, should play a role. And I believe that being endorsed by the local Democratic Party does not mean that you're involved in any sort of party politics, but it means that you've been vetted and determined to espouse and live the Democratic values. That includes equity, inclusion, support, and excuse me. And I'm proud to have been endorsed by the Democratic Party in town, and I'm proud to say that I have worked for many of the elected Democratic officials, such as Pete Harckham and Chris Burdick and George Latimer. And I do think that those are Democratic values as well. And I'm proud to be running for the Democratic line in November.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McCall. Okay, question number 3, and this is going to start with you, Ms. McCall. This is a town where many people choose to leave once their children are finished with the school system. Yet many also choose to stay. Do you think it is important for the town to retain its more senior population? If so, as supervisor, how would you address the needs of this senior population?
That's a great question. And I have to say that that's something that we observed when we first moved here. Was it seemed like a lot of people stayed until their kids graduated and then left. But I've also talked to a lot of people who don't want that to be their plan, but don't find options, in particular when it comes to housing, to make it feasible for them to stay and downsize in town. So some of the things that I think we can do to make this a community that is just as welcoming to seniors as it is to new families is to make sure that we have activities and recreational options that accommodate our senior population, that we have amenities that are attractive, such as parking at the train station to enable our older residents that might be able to want to get into the city but not have a parking permit. There may be other ways that we can keep our residents engaged and welcomed throughout many stages of their life. And I do encourage everyone to think about the options that a form-based code may promote for us to have additional options in terms of rental or downsized living for our residents.
Thank you. Ms. Katz?
So yes, I think it's very important to retain our seniors in this town. I agree. It's very easy for many people once their children have passed through the school system to decide, you know what, it is just too expensive to live here. And one of the main ways that we're going to keep people here is by making sure we are very fiscally responsible and that our taxes are not continuing to go up. Not everyone who lives in Newcastle is wealthy. And for many people, increases in taxes are significant and weigh heavily on whether they can continue to live here. So I want to make sure, including with the form-based code, which will increase taxes, that we are minimizing any tax increases. That being said, I have proven that we've been able to both keep taxes in check and enhance our services to our town. Some of the things we've been able to do is have significant senior activities, including at the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center, and we've been able to use our electric van that we now have to transport people back and forth. I want to include seniors in our various town committees to make sure that their views and their needs and their wants are considered along with all the other views of other citizens. We also do need to look at increasing not only affordable, but just attainable housing throughout our town, as well as, yes, increase our activities for seniors and make sure we have a viable senior center. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Katz. Okay, question number 4, and it's going to go to you, Ms. Katz, to begin with. The town of Newcastle is not just the hamlet of Chappaqua. Residents of Millwood and the East End often feel forgotten. As town supervisor, how will you ensure that the needs of those residents are met?
So that's a great question. And for years, Millwood and the West End and the East End, as I've been told, were only given a second thought by town government. But their economic growth, parks, and public safety deserve attention also. I will say that since I took office, I helped to secure $500,000 from Millwood sidewalks, a grant for Millwood Park improvements. We increased the beautification advisory budget from a mere $500 to $25,000, which resulted in hanging flower baskets in Millwood along Station Road and all through the hamlets as well. We implemented a $3,000 grant for new plantings in Millwood by the community sign. We established the Millwood West End Advisory Board, which I am now chairing the town board liaison of that, which we just reinvigorated. We worked to make the Millwood Community Gardens a reality, to bring in DeChico's and started movies in Millwood. The West End is a little different, and that's an environmentally sensitive area that needs to be protected from development. It's home to our beautiful parks like Sunny Ridge, and it's filled with ecological beauty. And as supervisor, I will make sure to protect this area of town from development. That being said, I want to encourage all residents to join our newly reinvigorated Millwood West End Advisory Board to make sure that we hear from everyone in those areas with respect to all the issues that matter to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McCall.
I'm so glad that we get to talk about this, because it is really important to remember that Newcastle is so much more than just Chappaqua or just Millwood or the schools. I think it's important that we have good representation and input from all of the different hamlets and areas in Newcastle, and that we're listening to residents and respecting the different character and personalities that each of these areas have. I think that the Millwood West End Advisory Board is a great step. However, I'd like to take it a step further and have more focused hamlet advisory groups. There are lots of opportunities to improve, revitalize areas like Chappaqua, which doesn't currently have an advisory board. I think Millwood also deserves to have a hamlet advisory board to offer input that are on the issues that are unique to Millwood. And just like Lisa said, the West End is ecologically sensitive, full of biodiversity, and does deserve to be protected. And pursuing things such as the overlay district to make sure that everyone who's adjacent to that area is taking the proper protections. I think it's important that Newcastle can be a leader in that area in keeping the West End pure and preserved and protected. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, here, question number 5. And this one's going to start with you, Ms. McCall. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are critical topics nationally and here in Newcastle. In the past year, the Council on Race and Equity and Newcastle Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Committee were formed. What would be your next steps to address diversity, equity, and inclusion in the town of Newcastle? Ms. McCall.
That is such an important piece of the future for Newcastle. And this Council for Race and Equity being formed is great. And I'm committed to cultivating some sustained progress of those initiatives as it transitions to the Committee on Race and Equity. Want to make sure that we're providing funding for programming and initiatives that the CRE would like to include. Making sure that we're remembering that our diverse community doesn't always feel supported, and it's important that we make sure that we're supporting everyone with empathy and sensitivity. I think we also need to have an equity and inclusion lens on everything that we're doing as members of the town board. We can also be recruiting diverse small businesses, making sure that we're highlighting and celebrating the diversity that we do have in this community. And I think that we can welcome more diversity and more residents by increasing our housing diversity and providing different entry points into our housing market and encourage socioeconomic diversity here in Newcastle. And again, I'm just going to reiterate the most important thing, which is to make sure that we continue to be welcoming and equitable and celebrate the diversity in the community.
Thank you, Ms. McCall. Ms. Katz?
So hate has no home here in Newcastle, and the town must continue to recognize the inherent dignity of all human beings, regardless of race, religion, national origin, age, ability, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or socioeconomic status. It's imperative that we actively seek out the perspective of these diverse voices within our community to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that we honor our differences as valued assets. The Unite Newcastle slate is actually the most diverse in town history. So it's clearly a priority for me to ensure that all views are not only heard, but represented. And we have to do this together as a community. So a few things I want to do is make sure not just that we open up boards and commissions and governmental entities to members of the community, but that we actively recruit members of our community to promote policies, activities, and educational opportunities that support cultural understanding, mutual respect, and inclusion. And that will include funding, but it will also include involvement. And we can do this through our committee, which will soon be our Committee on Race and Equity, in collaboration with our Board of Education, at the Chappaqua Performing Arts Center, through other town committees such as EPIC and the Holocaust and Human Rights Committee, and an increased communication with all residents and groups. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Katz. Okay, this is question number 6, and it's going to start to you, Ms. Katz. What is the role of appointed boards and committees in town governance and decision-making? Are there changes you would make to the current structure, including how many members are appointed or term limits?
So that's a really good question. And some committees and commissions have more responsibility. Some are statutory commissions, some are town-formed committees. They all are very valuable, and we seek their input. Things like the planning board obviously has significant say over planning opportunities in town. And then committees like, you know, Every Person is Connected, we really value to make sure that we are looking at how we're looking at diversity and other issues. I think that one thing that's been lacking is we've had a lot of the same people on those committees year after year. And it's very important that as those board seats open up, that we make sure to recruit different types of members of our community to make sure that we get different viewpoints on those committees. In terms of term limits, I welcome any resident who wants to volunteer, and some of these committees are very time consuming. So it would depend on the committee in terms of term limits, and also upon the interest of other members of our community in those committees. I certainly value expanding the size of many of these committees, but anyone who has the experience and the desire and the passion to help the town and to volunteer their time and ability, I am happy to take on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. McCall.
Would you mind repeating the question for me,
Sure,
please?
absolutely. What is the role of appointed boards and committees in town governance and decision-making? Are there changes you would want to make to the current structure, including how members are appointed or term limits?
Okay, thank you. I am so appreciative to the members of our community who are willing to give their time, energy, and expertise to the town of Newcastle to serve on these voluntary boards. And I know that some of them are required by law and some are created by the town. But what I think is very important in any situation is that we're ensuring that there is good communication and collaboration across the committees and up to the town board. As far as term limits, I don't know. I think that would be something I'd like to explore deeper. And I think it would vary depending on the nature and the commitment of an individual board. However, I do think it's important that we are seeking interested parties and qualified parties and socializing and sharing the opportunities for people to be involved with town government in these types of ways very broadly and seeking applicants on a regular basis. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, question number 7. And question number 7 is going to start with you, Ms. McCall. All right, here we go. Property taxes are an important issue for many residents. While the bulk of a resident's tax burden comes from school taxes, the town budget also has a role to play. As town supervisor, how would you work to control spending? Are there any projects you have in mind that would add to the budget or require taking on any additional municipal debt?
Thank you for that question. Yes, I understand the feeling about the tax bill. And I know that a lot of people can have sticker shock when they first move to Newcastle and have their tax bills. And as the questioner says, the bulk of that bill is going to the Chappaqua Central School District or your other school municipalities. However, I know that it can be done, and the previous administration has shown that it is possible to keep property taxes low, continue to improve the town, and increase options and services. However, I would be aggressively seeking grants and other types of low-cost financing for capital projects. I think shared services, especially at the county level, is a good opportunity for us to continue to seek economies of scale and efficiencies in government. I have a thorough understanding of the town budget, and my experience on the Chappaqua Central School District Board with a budget that's about 3 times that of the town, that has direct accountability to the voters, makes me really qualified to lead the budgeting and fiscal responsibility process for the town of Newcastle. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Ms. McCall. Ms. Katz?
Well, you're right. Newcastle's property taxes are among the highest in the country. And if the form-based code is passed, are set to go even higher. I'm committed to a fiscally sustainable Newcastle. And as a graduate of the Wharton School and a member of the town board for the past 8 years, I'm very familiar with our town budget, and I understand the importance of fiscal discipline and urgency in working for all taxpayers and residents. Now more than ever, it's critical to work to sustain the affordability of Newcastle for its residents and provide the high quality, essential services to our residents who make the significant financial sacrifice to live here. Our fiduciary responsibilities must take priority over political agendas. Now, when I first came to office in 2014, we achieved material cost savings in town from the aggressive negotiation and rebidding of our key town contracts and increased efficiency from budget performance and town staffing. I am very proud that we were able to significantly reduce costs while at the same time increasing many of the things we were able to provide to our residents, such as tripling our paving budget and increasing our beautification advisory board. We saved almost $3.5 million over 7 years in our garbage contract and over $500,000 in our workers' compensation renewal. So I think we have to keep a very close eye on our spending, as well as seeking grants and shared services as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, we're getting close to the end, so this is going to be the last question, and then you'll have your closing statements, okay? So this one is going to start with you, Ms. Katz. It's question number 8. The revenue side is an important component. No, that's not the one. Sorry. Question number 9. The form-based code is a contentious topic in the town. There are arguments in favor and there are arguments against. Can you share your thoughts on the perceived positives, such as revitalization and housing diversity, and the perceived negatives, such as overdevelopment and parking? Do you have other ideas about how the town could accomplish the goals of the form-based code? Go ahead, Ms. Katz.
I was waiting for this question to come up. The form-based code is obviously a hot topic in the Chappaqua Hamlet right now. Unfortunately, it does not accomplish the stated goal of the comprehensive plan of bringing vitality to the hamlet and a diversity of economic and social options, such as entertainment, restaurant, things to do, housing diversity for underserved populations, including seniors, new family, and socioeconomic new residents. It's not giving us a reason to stay in town. We have to have collaboration, and that is the largest negative of that essentially what the form-based code is doing is it's benefiting for-profit developers and giving those private interests who will build the largest and cheapest buildings that we allow them to permanent control over our hamlet, with most of their secret costs being absorbed and paid for by the town rather than developers. Revitalization is easily achieved through amending our existing code. In fact, I just proposed that we add a 10% affordability requirement to our current zoning, which did not exist. That same 10%, which is included in the form-based code, would be a ceiling. We can actually have it as a floor if we're able to negotiate with developers. Right now, we put in the last 3 years 60 affordable housing units in town in the last 3 years without a form-based code. In order to do that right now, we'd have to build 35 buildings the size of Conifer downtown.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Ms. Katz. Okay, Ms. McCall, you go right ahead.
So this is the elephant in the room, right? This is one of the things that everyone wants to talk about in the Chappaqua Hamlet. And I don't think that the form-based code is a threat to the Chappaqua Hamlet. In fact, I think it's our best near-term option to bring some vitality into the hamlet. Right now, we have vacant storefronts, but because we have spaces and rents that don't attract the businesses that we'd like to see here, it's a long, lengthy, and expensive process for a property owner to improve their space. We need to make it more streamlined and easier for them to do that and make it an incentive for them. We aren't going to see 5-story buildings, and we're not going to see the taxes skyrocket. I think that these are things that people are afraid of, but the new direction that the town board is taking, that's just not going to happen. And I'm very supportive of taking action in the near term in the North Greeley corridor, because I'd rather not see a vacant Rite Aid for any longer. As far as my particular preference on the form-based code, I would like to see it implemented and see the socioeconomic and building diversity, housing diversity that it will bring. And I would like to see that in the near term. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have a rebuttal.
You do have time for a rebuttal, 30 seconds, Ms. Katz, go right ahead.
Thank you. First, I spoke with the owner of the Rite Aid building, and he actually does not need a form-based code in order to build what he wants to build there. But also, it can't go unnoticed that my opponent has a conflict. Just 2 months ago, she signed a letter from the Board of Education and voted to ratify the board's position on the form-based code, which was against it. Now, suddenly that opinion has changed with no new facts, no new issues being identified, and no new input. So it does trouble me there.
Thank you, Ms. Katz. Ms. McCall, would you like your rebuttal?
Yes.
I thought so.
The role on the Board of Education is a fiduciary duty to the district and its taxpayers. The comments that were contained in that letter were not against a form-based code. They were asking questions based on the proposed legislation in the DGEIS. My personal thinking has evolved. I will acknowledge that. However, my position on the Board of Education is not a conflict, and my signature on that letter has nothing to do with my personal support. And the new information that I've got has been through the public hearings. Thank you.
Okay, listen, it's time to wrap this up, you guys. It's time for your closing statements. And the closing statement starts with you, Ms. McCall, and you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Tonight, I think you've seen a clear contrast between the two candidates for Newcastle Town Supervisor and our visions for Newcastle. And some people get angry and they argue on Facebook, but I like to get to work and solve problems. Something I've always said, and I do truly believe, is that if I feel like complaining, I should volunteer instead. I'm endorsed by the Newcastle Democratic Committee, Senator Pete Harcum, Assemblymember Chris Burdick, County Executive George Latimer, many more. And it's because they know my commitment to getting the job done and doing the work. As your next town supervisor, I will work to make Newcastle even more welcoming, inclusive, and thriving. Thank you, and please remember to vote McCall, Morton, Weinberg, and Bounds on June 22nd.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Katz?
Thank you again for listening tonight. Like most of you, I moved here for our town's incredible schools, natural beauty, and relaxed atmosphere. And I'm honored to have served our wonderful community on the town board for the past 8 years. I believe that I serve with integrity, thoughtfulness, and heart. All my experience on the town board has given me an in-depth and unique perspective on the challenges and opportunities faced by our community. And I have the temperament, experience, and empathy to move Newcastle forward. My Unite Newcastle running mates and I are fully committed to ensuring everyone in the community feels they're being heard and to fostering productive relationships and open lines of communication with residents, merchants, the Board of Education, and all other key constituencies. It is my promise as supervisor that I will collaborate with you, listen to you, build consensus, and work incredibly hard for all of you to ensure that Newcastle is the town you want to live in, because your endorsement is the only one that matters to me. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. That wraps up the Town Supervisor Forum. If we were in an audience, I would say it's time to applaud your candidates. So good work, good luck. And we're now going to move on to the second forum today, and that is going to be for the town board. Okay, so
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, John.
Thank you.
And Holly.
Okay, here come the candidates. Okay, and we're waiting for one more. Okay, there we go. Okay, so just like, I hope everybody's ready. Okay, Mary, I'm sure you're ready. So just like before, we chose the lots. There she is. Just like before, we chose the lots for the order of speaking. And the order of speaking was Ms. Castle, Ms. Sanseverino, excuse me, Mr. Weinberg, and Ms. Morton. Okay, and that's going to be our order. And then we're going to rotate from the opening statements through the questions, and then the closing statements will be in the opposite order of the opening statements. Okay, so we're going to start with the opening statements, and Ms. Castle, you are the opener. Then it'll be Ms. Sanseverino, Mr. Weinberg, and Ms. Morton. Okay, and your opening statements, I have to check my notes, and you have for your opening statements 1 minute. Okay, so whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you. Thank you to the League for this evening. There are many aspects to our town government, but in this election, we're clearly facing an inflection point as we embark on the most significant rezoning and subsequent development our town has ever undertaken. It is by far the most important issue of this campaign. It's also the reason I decided to run. My husband and I chose Newcastle as our home to raise our family, and I'm deeply committed to its success. After 20 years in real estate, I recognize that we're embarking on a plan that is completely out of scale with our hamlets, one that would result in overdevelopment and impacts to our commercial districts, schools, and critical infrastructure, as well as increased tax burdens to our residents. The quaint small town we all chose would be forever changed as we cede control of our downtown to private interests. I'm excited to work with all stakeholders to streamline revitalization and ensure the right mix of uses, design, affordability, and resident engagement. Together, we will create a sustainable vision that will define Newcastle for decades to come.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Sanseverino? Ms. Sanseverino?
Thank you, John. I'm Andrea Sanseverino Galan, and I'm running for town board to reignite our community spirit and to restore our shared values of civility, respect, transparency, and constructive debate. The collapse of these values and attempts to muzzle those with divergent views on issues like the form-based code have compelled me to run for office. My 10-year-old daughter is a third-generation Newcastle resident, and our extended family has lovingly called Chappaqua home for 43 years. I'm passionate about bringing positive change and increased diversity to Newcastle through responsible progress and sustainable development, and to achieving that through robust resident and stakeholder input and strategic modifications to our legislation. I'm opposed to the proposed form-based code because it violates all of those principles. The FBC is not the answer to revitalizing our hamlets, to achieving more affordable or diverse housing, or to solving social justice issues in our community. There is a better way, and I pledge to listen to you in developing innovative solutions and tackling the critical issues we face to improve the lives of all residents. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Weinberg, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. I'm Mike Weinberg, and I'm a small business owner, helping other small businesses with their finances. And for the past 3 years, part-time special advisor to our state senator, Pete Harcum. I've been running my campaign on the theory of think globally, act locally. The idea of tying Newcastle solutions to the bigger problems at hand and being part of the solution and not part of the problem. But our primary here tonight is solely to choose who will be the Democratic nominee. All of us will appear on the November ballot on independent lines. So the question is, as a longtime Democratic activist myself and district leader, I believe there's some obligations and responsibilities of being on that Democratic line. Who's going to stand up and fight against the right-wing Republicans that want to represent us in Albany and White Plains? I have the history of doing that, will continue to do that. And I think the work that I have done has helped all Newcastle residents with better representation and Democratic majorities in both Albany and White Plains. I look forward to answering your questions tonight about the Democratic nomination.
Thank you, Mr. Weinberg. Ms. Morton, you have a minute.
Good evening. My name is Lori Morton. I'm a 16-year resident of Newcastle with 2 daughters at Bell School. I proudly serve as a Newcastle Town Board member. I'm also very proud of my many years of service to Newcastle on the boards of the Chappaqua Children's Book Festival, the Chappaqua PTA STEM Committee, and the Newcastle Democratic Committee. In my profession as a scientist, I prioritize data-driven decisions, creative problem solving, inclusive collaboration, and the patience, persistence, and courage required to make big ideas possible. On the town board, I strive to break down silos to pursue sustainable, positive growth for our town, enhanced recreation and quality of life, and a culture of diversity where every resident, worker, and visitor feels like a valued member of the community. Thank you, and I look forward to this evening.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. So now we're going to go to the questions. You all have the opportunity for one minute during the forum. Okay, so when you want that, just ask for it. Okay, just wait till the question, everybody's answered the question. Okay, so this is question number 1, and this goes to Ms. Sanseverino, then Mr. Weinberg, then Ms. Morton, and then Ms. Castle. Question number 1. How do your skills and experiences make you well suited to serve on the town board? Is there anything in particular you hope to accomplish if you're elected? Ms. Sanseverino.
Thank you very much for that question. And thank you also to the League of Women Voters for tonight. As a Latina with more than a decade experience living abroad and years of experience leading global nonprofit organizations on 3 continents, I'm well prepared from the executive leadership and fiscal management and consensus building perspective to guide our community collaboratively, to bridge differences and to achieve and implement a shared vision for our community. I believe very strongly in bringing our communities together and ensuring that the voices of all residents are heard. Having worked bilaterally in Latin America, the UK, Europe, and China, I feel well prepared to do that and to ensure that the voices of all residents are proactively sought and engaged in our community decision-making and community discussions.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Weinberg.
Yes. So I have a couple of different sets of experiences that I think will be very valuable on the town board. First, as a small business person, understanding how many of our small businesses work and understanding finance and how that can lead to helping on the town board finances, but also my experience in government and politics, having connections in other communities, having connections with the county executive and the state senators and the assembly members, and finding ways that we can connect and help each other. talking about shared services and finding ways to cut costs and save costs by talking to other town board members in local communities. Hearing, as I do with State Senator Harkin's office, other communities and other town boards and what they are doing and finding some of those best practices and bringing them back here to Newcastle. I think those are great ways that I can use my experience to help move our town forward, work hard, find new initiatives, look at big issues, and dig in and find a way to find solutions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Weinberg. Ms. Morton.
Thank you. So, so my training is as a scientist, and I think that really brings a unique perspective to municipal governing. And that's because I am trained as a data-driven decision maker, a critical thinker, and a creative thinker with patience and persistence to pursue things that change the world, and passion to make change in this part of the world. And a long-term experience as a Newcastle resident, engaged in community initiatives of all stripes. So a lot of deep relationships in the community, an understanding of how to get things done. And then, of course, the experience that I've already had on the town board, where I really dived in to learn as much as I can, as quickly as I can, and built nice relationships with our highly valuable township employees who are a wealth of institutional knowledge, and built relationships with our advisory boards.
Thank you, Ms. Morton. Ms. Castle.
Sorry, Tara, we had to mute you because just unmute yourself.
Apologies. I think I bring some, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So I think I bring some really well-rounded experience to the town, dating all the way back to my my academic studies in urban affairs and planning, which is really about integrated approaches to communities. And building successful communities. I've had 20 years of experience in the corporate world and have a deep understanding of how to create success and fiscal responsibility, many of the challenges that we'll face as a town. I've also volunteered across the community in various ways, from PTA to other community initiatives. But I think it's my professional experience in the community development space that really sets me apart. I'm prepared to help guide this community through the challenges that we'll face as we bring our hamlets to the fore and really focus in on what we can do from a development standpoint through the construction aspects we all faced as far as the infrastructure project, et cetera, and all of those challenges. And I've also, bring leadership experience with Urban Land Institute for many, many years that really serves as the model for what communities could be on a global scale.
Ms. Castle, thank you very much. Okay, so here we go. Question number 2, and we're going to start with you, Mr. Weinberg. The town of Newcastle comprises many different areas with unique characteristics and concerns. It also has populations with differing needs. How would you ensure that the town board serves the needs of all residents?
Thank you, John. I agree. Our town is quite diverse in the way of geography and neighborhoods. And I live on the Millwood side of town. And we've now I have now been named to the Millwood West End Advisory Board, and we're waiting for that to get started. And I think that's one way we can include more people on this side of town. But it's a lot about reaching out and having neighborhood meetings, talking to different residents from different parts of town, and basically just reaching out and meeting with people and getting out there and just not waiting for people to contact us. So I think it's a lot about that. I enjoy being out there and meeting with so many people, and I think that is the most important thing. Town board members, not to just sit and wait for people to come to them, is we have to go to them and find them and hear what they have to say.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Weinberg. Ms. Morton.
Thank you. Sorry, my dogs just all ran in. So certainly listening to residents, right, and actively going out to big relationships with residents throughout our community. I've been serving for a while on the Beautification Advisory Board, and in that capacity, going around town and taking pictures all over Newcastle. So in Millwood and in the West End, and really taking a moment to seek out beauty in all of the different places of Newcastle, whether they're right in the hamlet or vistas overlooking lakes and sunsets in the West End of Newcastle. The way certainly that we meet the needs of our fellow residents is to seek out their opinions and to seek out their input on our issues. We have many advisory boards that cross so many areas of intersectionality, from the Council on Race and Equity to EPIC to the Millwood West End Advisory Board. And I value their talent and their time and their expertise in so many areas. And it's imperative that the town board seek and take out their advice.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me remind all the candidates to mute their microphones once they're finished answering their questions. Ms. Castle, you have the question now.
Could you repeat the question again, John? If you
Yeah, sure, absolutely. The town of Newcastle comprises many different areas with unique characteristics and concerns. It also has populations with differing needs. How would you ensure that the town board serves the needs of all residents?
Thank you so much. So as we've embarked on this effort during campaigning, I've really made it a point to engage with residents in various parts of the community and really get an understanding of, how the residents of Millwood and the West End and elsewhere really feel. Obviously, there's always been a strong focus on Chappaqua. We need to remember that we are a robust community with many different parts of, our resident population that are all facing different challenges. And right now, I think we have a tremendous opportunity as we're looking at development in the Chappaqua Hamlet to think about, well, what could we do with Millwood and how do we make sure that we get that equation right? How do we engage residents in that process in a really effective manner? And I'm really focused on how do we build consensus and bring the community together to make decisions that are going to benefit all rather than one part of our community.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right, make sure you mute your microphones when you're finished talking. Okay, Ms. Sanseverino, question is to you.
Yes, thank you very much. So how will I ensure the town board serves all residents is the question. Thank you. Having spoken with hundreds of residents since embarking on this campaign, I've had the wonderful opportunity to hear from so many in diverse communities and to understand their needs, from those who are economically vulnerable to our families of parents with children in our school district to our seniors. And what's most important is ensuring that we're actively engaging all those communities, especially those who are underrepresented. They must be cultivated and recruited to participate both formally and informally in town advisory boards, and also civic organizations must be brought to the forefront of conversations and decision-making processes. So proactively engaging all in our communities and ensure positive outcomes from that perspective. I also see this through the lens of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, and feel that this is vital importance, and we must increase diversity and honor all of our differences.
Thank you very much. Okay. All right. This is the third question. Okay. And we're going to start with you, Ms. Morton. Climate change and the environment are important not only on a national level, As a town board member, how would you seek to address issues of sustainability and preservation of the green space in the town of Newcastle? So that's you, Ms. Morton.
That's great. This is a fantastic question. So I have been proud to dive into these issues in my time on the town board. I serve as the town board liaison to the Beautification Committee, the Sustainability Advisory Board, and the Conservation Board, and to the Task Force for Climate Smart Communities. And I'm actually proud to announce that in last night's Sustainability Board meeting, they announced that our work toward clean energy communities has led to our eligibility for a $10,000 grant The beauty of pursuing sustainability principles for the town is, one, you can make measurable change in this area. Newcastle saved over 19,000 tons of carbon by switching over to Westchester Power. That's just for 2020 alone. So when you talk about trying to make global climate change, the ability of the municipal government to enact that change is actually quite phenomenal. And the collective impact of that is incredibly robust. Our advisory boards in these areas are so talented.
Thank you very much, Ms. Morton. Ms. Kessel, unmute.
Apologies. Thank you so much. This is also a subject that is near and dear to my heart. I've been focused on sustainable development throughout my career and really have been lucky enough to be on the forefront of everything from USGBC and LEAD to what's happening in the wellness space that really is bringing together the latest thinking in terms of sustainability. I'd also add that in addition to sustainability, resiliency is a close second cousin that is very much related to our success in that arena. And as far as sustainability is concerned and resiliency, we can bring those approaches together in really powerful ways. I think one of the limitations of the form-based code is that we can't evolve some of the latest thinking as far as energy efficiency and really, a number of the different changes in the regulatory environment that are happening in the communities around us, such as Manhattan. So at any rate, it would be about bringing people together, making sure that we are on the leading edge of what's happening in the sustainability space. It's, embracing technology and smart cities and moving forward in that manner.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Ms. Sanseverino.
Thank you so much. Maintaining control over development and ensuring the town has the financial resources to maintain our open spaces and ensure proper conservation is key. I'd love to see expanded conservation areas and more sustainability practices aligned with the Paris Agreement, and work in collaboration with county, state, and federal agencies to maximize the opportunities for funding and best practices. Ensuring that we're resilient as a community as we face climate change is critical. This to me also begs the issue of the airport. The Westchester County Airport is impacting our environment in significant ways, and also the peaceful enjoyment of many of our residents' properties, and supporting alternative flight paths and ensuring that an expansion of the hangars is not permitted to mitigate further environmental impacts is key. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Weinberg.
Yes, I, as well, really appreciate this question. It goes to the theme of my campaign. The idea that thousands of municipalities and millions of people contribute to the bigger solution. It's not going to happen just from the federal government on down. Although I will say, being on the staff of Senator Pete Harcum, and we passed the most stringent clean climate protection act in the country in the past year. But we definitely need to upgrade our building codes, which I think are in the works. Adding places where we can do solar and other alternative energies in places maybe where the town can do it and then distribute that energy out. And we definitely need to look at places where we can buy up open space before it gets developed around the town. Looking at state and federal money where that would be for environmental sensitive places, or just places where we can keep that open space, keep those trees, maybe add an additional park. I think those are critical ways that we can all help us all move to the future.
Thank you, Mr. Weinberg. Okay, here's the fourth question. Okay, and we're going to start with you, Ms. Castle. When discussing ways to make the town more attractive to current and potential residents, When discussing ways to make the town more attractive to current and potential residents, community members have raised many creative ideas, while some residents have expressed concern about the implementation and maintenance costs. How do you think the town should assess the feasibility of those ideas?
I want to make sure I understand the question properly. The feasibility of ideas for bringing...
Community members have raised many creative ideas, while some residents have expressed concern about the implementation and maintenance cost of those ideas. How do you think the town should assess the feasibility of those ideas?
Well, I think it's really important to do conduct an economic analysis. I think that's one of the biggest challenges that I have had looking at some of the initiatives that have been brought to the fore. You know, we need to evaluate every initiative across the board from both an economic standpoint and environmental standpoint, and the social implications of every decision. So at any rate, bringing people together, generating ideas is a critical piece to the equation. What follows from that is a thorough analysis to ensure the feasibility and viability of those concepts.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Sanseverino.
Thank you. So again, just to be clear, to how to assess the feasibility of ideas, correct?
Correct, creative idea.
Okay. Right. So to me, this goes to the heart of our infrastructure in terms of what our current infrastructure is and what we can afford and what is sustainable for us. The thorough evaluation, as my running mate mentioned, from all angles is absolutely vital, and also a professional charrette, right? Resident engagement, engaging all stakeholders in the process is really key to ensuring that, and to make sure that any development in town that's brought into either hamlet actually adds to our tax base rather than strains the tax base and overburdens our already highly taxed residents. By working with developers, we can ensure that they are responsible for any investments in infrastructure that will be needed with any strategic development that we make.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Weinberg.
Well, I took the question to mean less about development and more about other ideas we might have, be it a town pool or a dog park or things of that nature. And I think it's hard when you're the cost benefit analysis is really the benefit is to the general residents of the town, and it may not have an economic benefit other than a long-term goal of more people wanting to live in our community because we have interesting ideas and creative ideas that we'd want to put into our town. Certainly, we have to look at the viability and the cost of anyone we put in, but it has to be weighed against what is the well-being of our community. How does it bring people together? Is it something that is desirable for others who would want to be here? And I think those can weigh heavily on those kind of decisions. And I think we should always look for ideas outside of the box, creative ideas, and see if we can come up with one. Not everyone will be good, and maybe we hit on one that will be. But it's certainly worth exploring every one.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. Morton.
Thank you for this question. I take on big ideas all the time for work. And when I talk about the folks that I partner with to pursue big ideas, you know, the tone of the conversation is there are 1,000 ways that you can come up with to explain why something won't work. And it's a much easier lift to talk about how things won't work. And the challenge, right, is to put the work in to determine how to pursue big ideas and make them successful. And this is what I do in my profession over the years, my whole life. And I think that this completely applies to pursuing big ideas within the municipality, within how the enhancements that we make to our parks, within our opportunity to create new parks and new park infrastructure for Newcastle, to take on big ideas like a town park, like a chap line, like a hiking trail that goes around Tertia Brook through the heart of our hamlet. Because when you go after these big ideas and you invest, for example, in the training for our town employees to seek out grants, you can find ways to pay for them and make it a reality.
Thank you very much. Okay. Next question, question number 5. And we're going to start with you, Ms. Sanseverino. The increase in noise from flights over the town of Newcastle going into Westchester County Airport is a concern for many residents. What can the town do to address these concerns?
Thank you so much for this question, which I addressed tangentially a little earlier. The airport is absolutely impacting our environment and the peaceful enjoyment of our residents and our community. It is vital that we work with the county and the state and the FAA to explore and support alternative flight paths, and also work in collaboration with our surrounding communities. There's a potential expansion of a hangar of private planes that's now been proposed, and we need to work across all party lines to ensure that this does not happen, and that there is a fair and equitable distribution of the burden that is placed on our communities by having access to Westchester County Airport.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Weinberg.
Thank you. I think I'm certain I agree as well that the expansion of that millionaire hangar needs to be well considered and likely not expanded. But first, before we even get to that, they need to take care of the environmental issues that they have already let go and have not fully completed. We need to complete the airport master plan, which was started, but it needs a supplemental agreement. Certainly, looking at that flight path up 684 will be helpful to all of us, but it will require the FAA and our neighborhood towns to work in concert to make that happen. Working with our federal elected officials is critical, as the flight paths and everything about the airport is controlled by the FAA. So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Morton?
Yes, thank you. So I think that the opportunity for 684 approach to the airport, which is only possible when there's a sight line to the landing, visual landing, is an interesting approach that could decrease traffic over Newcastle. However, for it to be a success, we actually need to arrive at alignment with the other impact communities. The FAA will not consider it unless the residents who are flown over for that alternate approach are part of the conversation. The town of Bedford is actually not a part of the County Airport Advisory Board and needs to be if this is going to happen. We need to engage our congressional delegation and these stakeholders to make this change. It's a critical precursor for the FAA to take any action. The county needs to restart the airport master plan public engagement process. That was stalled by COVID, and I think it's about time that it start up again. Certainly Millionaire needs to complete all of its outstanding environmental permitting, stormwater remediation before we can consider their new hangar. Plus, the justification that they have provided for that new hangar is woefully insufficient. They are arguing that it's going to decrease repositioning flights.
Thank you.
And it's not likely to.
Thank you, Ms. Morton. Thank you. Okay, Ms. Kessel.
Thank you so much. This is a topic that is near and dear to my heart. I have sat on the Newcastle Airport Advisory Committee since it was formed, and live in an area that is adversely affected by this issue. So I'm excited to actually join the town board and to be able to drive a solution to this issue. Like my running mate mentioned, the turnover 684 is a critical piece to the equation. We certainly need to continue the evaluation of some of the private aviation companies like Millionaire, as just has been mentioned. But I think, we also need to be prepared to take a tough line on this. And we had engaged counsel on this matter, who informed us that the best way forward may be to pursue litigation. And we've seen other towns like Greenwich do that effectively. So I think we need to be firm in the impacts that this is having to Chappaqua and Millwood residents, and make sure that we are focusing in on how are we going to ensure that we are minimizing not just the noise, but the emissions that are really creating great harm to many parts of the town.
Thank you very much, Ms. Castle. Okay, question number 6. Okay, and it's going to start with you, Mr. Weinberg. The form-based code is a contentious topic in town. There are arguments in favor and there are arguments against. Can you share your thoughts on the perceived positives, such as revitalization and housing diversity, and the perceived negatives, such as overdevelopment and parking? Do you have other ideas about how the town could accomplish the goals of the form-based code?
Thank you. So I think we need to dispel a few of the myths. There is no indication that developing the North Greeley section, which is all that we're talking about now, 6 acres on the North Greeley corridor, will increase taxes whatsoever. We currently have vacant buildings, and it really is not something that's attractive when newcomers come to the town. I think it will help with revitalization. I think it will help bringing more people there. I think it will help with our businesses. I think it absolutely does help as it's rental housing with diversity of housing and diversity of community. It will allow for all kinds of different types of for people who want to live there. We have very little rental housing in this town. This is asphalt and cement. It's not tearing down trees. This is the appropriate place to have smart development. And I think it's time that we get to progress now.
Thank you, Mr. Weinberg. Ms. Morton.
Thank you. Form-based code, right? 6 acres of underdeveloped land that's ripe for opportunity in Newcastle. The opportunity to create housing equity, more housing equity in Newcastle. And housing equity is not limited to affordable housing, although there is an affordable housing component here. It's about creating housing opportunities that benefit empty nesters, young adults newly flown, families coming to check out Newcastle for a year before they settle to choose the house that they want to live in. 2 household families that want to have both parents live in the community, grandparents that want to live near their kids that live in Newcastle. There's so much opportunity here. The apartment building that just opened on Bedford Road rented immediately to families just like that. That argument that it's market rate housing doesn't provide housing diversity is shown to be false by that example in particular. I think there's great opportunity here to increase the housing diversity, increase the housing density in Newcastle to support our small businesses.
Thank you, Ms. Morton. Thank you very much. Ms. Kessel.
Thank you so much. Another topic that is quite important to me and hopefully to the entire community. This is a very significant undertaking that we're talking about. And I think if I had to talk about a pro for the form-based code, it would be that the community as a whole is really focused on revitalization, which I think is central to our success and becoming a sustainable community over the long term. That being said, the form-based code is fraught with many issues. It's a fallacy to characterize it as a 6-acre execution at this juncture. The study for the 72-acre site continues, and the reality is that could be either implemented by an incoming town board, or we could face litigation from developers once we have an approved environmental impact study. As far as other aspects to it, I think there's been a lot of confusion about what the ultimate goal was. I think we can achieve the diverse housing mix that everybody keeps referencing without a form-based code. The max build out at this juncture is really the size of 35 buildings, the size of the Conifer building throughout the hamlet. In the tiny Chapel hamlet, it is completely out of scale.
Thank you, Ms. Castle. Thank you very much. Ms. Sanseverino.
Thank you, John. Well, this is a vital question and one that I feel passionately about. I'm opposed to the current form-based code for many reasons. There's been no economic analysis on the FBC to date. I'm really passionate about increasing the diversity of housing, including affordable workforce and attainable housing. And the FBC sets a ceiling on the percentage of affordable housing units that can be built at 10%. As town board member, I will ensure that the floor is 10%, and from there we can build higher by negotiating with developers. Second, the FBC serves Newcastle on a silver platter to for-profit developers. It takes all control away from residents, the town board, and the planning board about the future of our community. There will also be an unfair increased tax burden on our residents, many of whom are already struggling to remain in our community. And the FBC will displace the most economically vulnerable residents in the available multifamily and affordable housing we have in Chappaqua Hamlet. There are ways to achieve revitalization and development by modifying our current legislation and also simplifying our planning board approval process. The 6-acre development is a bait and switch, and our town is not a science experiment. If approved, the town will be open to litigation from developers to force implementation. There are alternatives. We can achieve the affordable, attainable, and diverse housing mix we would all like to see.
Thank you, Ms. Sanseverino. Okay.
Thank you.
Ms. Morton, would you like your rebuttal right now?
I would, yes. Thank you so much.
30 seconds.
I will. Okay, so just a couple of fact checks. One, the affordable housing component is not a ceiling, it's a floor. It's a minimum 10%. affordable housing requirement that would be included in the form-based code legislation. And actually, we're considering how we can create incentives to increase from 10%. In terms of building standards and building quality, we will be implementing a green building standard and, of course, our high standards for building in Newcastle to make sure that whatever gets built is predefined and acceptable to our community.
Thank you. Mr. Weinberg, would you like to use your rebuttal here?
I would as well.
Go ahead, 30 seconds.
Sure. This idea that developers are going to run rampant just isn't fair. There's going to be plenty of rules in the code that will limit what the developers can and will do, or the building owners. It may not even be a big developer. And we don't want to do spot zoning that takes years and years and negotiate with each and every one. There will be plenty of places for implement and plenty of places of limitation for developers.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Weinberg. Ms. Castle, you have 30 seconds for your rebuttal.
Yes, thank you so much. The reality is that the form-based code was created for developers by developers, and it is very much developer friendly. I know this after 20 years of working with developers and as a development entity, exactly what we're up against. Form-based code is typically used in places that need to attract developers because of the ease and reduced costs and all of the aspects of development that are overcome in advance. We need to make sure we retain control over our hamlets, retain control over how we revitalize, and ensure that we don't bring any adverse impacts to our residents.
Thank you, Ms. Castle. Okay. Oh, okay. Ms. Sanseverino, you have 30 seconds.
I also want to say that this form-based code has been conceived without the benefit of a public, professionally run charrette. So there has been no resident input, which is vital, actually, to a successful form-based code, which is completely out of proportion to the hamlet of Chappaqua or to Millwood.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to have question number 7, and it's going to start with you, Ms. Morton. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are critical topics in town. There are arguments in favor and there are arguments against. Can you share your thoughts on the perceived positives? Diversity and equity and inclusion are critical topics nationally and here in Newcastle. In the past year, the Council on Race and Equity and the Newcastle Police Reform and Reinvention Collaborative Committee were formed. What would be your next steps to address diversity, equity, inclusion in the town of Newcastle?
This is a great question. Recently there was some survey results shared by the schools with the community. My daughters go to Bell, and so our response was from Bell, and they shared data that showed that among the students who were BIPOC, Asian American, Asian, AAPI, LGBT identifying students, or students for whom English was a second language, their responses for feeling that they were a valued member of the Bell community were dramatically lower than students that didn't fit in those categories. And I believe that their families feel very similarly. And so our goals for diversity, equity, and inclusion in Newcastle mean that every member of our community should feel like a fully valued member of the community. Now, the CRE has provided us 300 pages of recommendations. And certainly at the top of that list is funding the CRE so that it can implement, and we can work with them to implement those recommendations.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Castle?
I think we're at an exciting moment as Newcastle really becomes more diverse than ever before. And I look at this as an opportunity to ensure that we become a community and we evolve as a community to one that certainly is open and welcoming to all races, religion, socioeconomic backgrounds, national origins, ability, gender, sexual orientation, et cetera. It's important that we give positive examples for our children and continue to look for ways to fund a lot of the great work that the CRE is doing. We need to encourage active participation in all aspects of community life, including town government. We need to celebrate diversity and explore other cultures through programs and programming and community engagement. And most of all, really practice listening and learning and empathy in all that we do. We're going to continue to grow as a community. We see this happening on a macro scale, and hopefully Newcastle is moving along that journey along with our educational system in a way that is going to produce the results we're looking for.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ms. San Severino.
Thank you so much for this question, which is very important to me and dear to my heart. As a member of the most diverse slate for political office in Newcastle history, DEI is a critically important issue, and I am wholeheartedly committed to listening and learning. I'm a Latina, and I have lived experience as a woman of color in the US and around the world. Increasing diversity, social equity, expanded inclusion, and honoring our differences in all ways are vital to a thriving community where everyone feels they belong. We must bring a DEI lens to all town governance and issues we address, and actively engage and uplift the voices of all. To ensure that this happens, we must proactively cultivate and recruit underrepresented residents and create a pipeline of active participation in our civic organizations, town advisory committees, and town government. The establishment of a new town committee on DEI is a very positive development, and among their mandate, which has not yet been made clear, I would propose they act as liaison to all prospective and newcomer residents and ensure access, for example, to all HUD, New York State and county programs on affordable housing, including down payment assistance programs. We have tremendous trust with our police force, and that must be continued as well. Thank you
very much. Okay, Mr. Weinberg.
Thank you. So clearly we have our work cut out for us here, not just locally, but all over, as hate has been increasing all over the county and really the country. And we have to really work hard to make this work. Listen, we certainly have to fund the initiatives, some of the initiatives that CRE has requested. Finding ways to bring the community together in community places, community events, to reach out and have these kind of activities. And one of the things the CRE has requested is for us to move forward on rental housing. And I think this is an important piece. This is an important consideration for all of us to think about. But mostly it really has to be about hearing what they have to say and making sure everyone feels safe and welcome in our community, and finding ways that we can bring everyone together. And I look forward to trying to do that.
Okay, thank you very much. That was the last question. So we're going to go right to our closing statements. Okay, so you all know you have 1 minute for your closing statements, and they're in the reverse order of the opening statements. So that means, Ms. Morton, you are going to begin the closing statements. So go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you. Thank you to the League and to the residents of Newcastle for your thoughtful questions and for providing this forum to share ideas and plans for our vision for a more vibrant, more sustainable, and more equitable Newcastle. My one-year term began in January. I have approached the issues before the town with curiosity, appetite for knowledge, creativity, and critical thinking. I have dug into the work with our advisory boards and town staff to make a better Newcastle a reality. I hope that at the end of my tenure in the town board, which comes some years from now, that folks will say that I did more than pay lip service to issues and personally dug in to make positive change in Newcastle. I hope that voters will allow me to continue all of this great work on their behalf. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Mr. Weinberg.
I as well thank everyone for listening and participating in this spate of democracy. I'm proud of the work and volunteer work I have done in the community, serving on the Chamber of Commerce for Chappaqua and Millwood, and digging in and also doing the work here. I think I have a lot of creative ideas, ways to use my government and political experience to help all of us, to reach out and come up with things that we can do together, find new solutions, and move our town forward. We have a lot of work to do. I'm looking forward to getting out there. And if anyone would like to chat, I'm out there very often with my dog toy, walking and hiking, and I'm happy to have you join me. And you can find a lot more about us at democratsfornewcastle.com. And I look forward to talking and meeting with more of you. Thank you very much. And I ask for your support June 22nd primary, the Democratic nomination, and the 10 days of early voting before that.
Thank you very much. Ms. Sanseverino.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters, my fellow candidates, and most importantly, my fellow residents for your interest and engagement. My professional experience in the US, Latin America, the UK, Europe, and China in nonprofit leadership and governance, and my mission-driven commitment to positive social change have prepared me well to be a public servant. And my conversations with hundreds of residents throughout this community have also helped prepare me to serve, to actively listen, and to inform my leadership of this community we all love. As town board member, I'll ensure that the voices of all residents are heard and respected, and I'll proactively seek to engage those whose voices are absent and bring them to the forefront of important community discussions and decision-making. No one in Newcastle will be left out. Together with my running mates, we will usher in a new era of open dialogue, trust, and transparent governance. Use your voice and your vote for Lisa Katz, Tara Castle, writing candidate Victoria Bayard-Tip, and Andrea Sanseverino-Glan to ensure the future of Newcastle is in your hands. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Castle, you have the closing statement.
Thank you to the League, my fellow candidates, and most of all the community for your interest and engagement in this important process. We've covered an impressive number of topics tonight, from development to airports to equity and inclusion. My personal and professional experience has prepared me well to tackle these challenges with innovative solutions that will enhance our environment and social fabric and make good economic sense. I will not support a plan that raises your taxes to subsidize future residents. I know from experience there is a better way, that we can achieve our goals for more vibrant downtowns and housing diversity while cultivating fiscally responsible development. But what I really want to leave you with is this. I'm not interested in politics, and I'm not interested in higher office or using Newcastle as a stepping stone. My commitment to you is that I will listen, work hard, build a collaborative culture, and most of all, be a good steward of our town and all that we value as we bring Newcastle into the future. So please vote for the Unite Newcastle slate on June 22nd of Lisa Katz, Andrea Sanseverino-Glan, Tara Castle, and writing candidate Victoria Bayard-Tip. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. That wraps up this forum. If we were live, I would ask the audience to applaud all of you. So there you go. Great job. Appreciate it. We did videotape this, so it'll be on maybe the League of Women Voters of Newcastle's website shortly. I'm not sure about that. I want to remind you that the League of Women Voters plays an important role in all of our communities with voting registration, protecting voting rights, and it's very important for democracy. And your local league is made up of volunteers who devote all their time and energy. And if anybody wants to join or participate or donate, the League of Women Voters would be really happy about that. Thank you again, everyone. Democracy is not a spectator sport. That's one of our slogans. Have a wonderful
Thank you very much,
Thank you so
John.
much.
Bye, guys.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Good
John.
night.
Good night.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Good night.